Moment of truth. If you didn't watch it, go back and watch our first video. We kind of introduce our project here. We've dubbed her side piece. Apparently my wife thinks that I spend more time in the shop than I spend with her. So this has been officially named by my wonderful Mrs. The side piece. So last episode, we discovered that our 5.9 is not going to be salvageable. So the goal of this project originally was ultimately build a 1200 horsepower rig, but I wanted to start out using a phased approach to kind of really walk everyone through, you know, what do you have to do just to get a project back on the road again? What are kind of some budget-minded performance modifications that you can do? And then step into the big horsepower stuff last. So we're going to do a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 for this project. And that was just going to be, you know, get the head gasket fixed, do the normal maintenance items, get the truck down the road. And then phase 2 is going to be small turbo, lift pump, tune, kind of the stuff that, you know, everyone does starting out in this diesel world. But unfortunately, with the engine not being salvageable, or fortunately and unfortunately, I guess, we're going to have to go straight into the good stuff from the beginning. All right, so phase 1 can't be done. Phase 2 can't be done. So what does phase 3 look like? So our goal with this truck is going to be pretty much a full-out street capable race truck. So we're going to try and make something that is, you know, 1,000 horsepower daily driver, but to be, you know, turned up, tuned 5, 1,200, 1,300 horsepower. That's the ultimate goal. So all is not lost, for we have the 6.7. The whole goal of today is going to be getting this engine completely torn down up on the engine stand. So I wanted to go over kind of some of the differences that you're going to find. So I've mentioned a few times that this is an industrial engine. So I wanted to go over what you're going to find. So industrial engines are rear gear train. So it's a little different than traditional. Rear gear train for me was no problem because I already had plans, but we'll kind of go over those as we get into this here. Moment of truth. Ooh, these ones are pretty. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's beautiful, Clark. All right, well, this is a little more of what we were hoping to see yesterday when we tore the other engine down. This is the epitome of a damn near perfect engine. Yeah, these pistons are still in gorgeous shape. You can clearly see the cross hatching on the cylinder walls. I think might just hone it just a tiny bit just to clean it up, but man, this is absolutely gorgeous. I am beyond stoked with how good this thing looks. So not quite the sad story that we had yesterday with the piston damage we saw in cylinder number 1. This is awesome. Even inside the water jackets, like you can see, I mean, the coolant was never even dirty. This thing is crazy, crazy clean. So give it up to the maintenance crew wherever this thing was pulled out of, because they did a great job keeping this thing in good shape. All right, so got the head off of this thing, and it's a lot better news than yesterday. So I apologize. I really wanted to do kind of a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 approach to this build. But that required this engine, the 5.9 that was originally in the truck, to be salvageable, and it is just not. The turbo got eaten. Chunks of metal went into cylinder number 1 and completely destroyed the number 1 piston, and that block is completely unsalvageable. So for those of you out there that like performance, we get to go to the fun stuff right away. So our build motor, this 6.7 behind me, it's kind of been the build one all along. This is the phase 3 motor, so this is the guy that we're going to build. So we're just going to go straight into the good stuff and start showing you guys how to build this engine up. Alright, so all I'm doing here is getting a really rough idea if this thing's been overboard at all. And it's reading right at about 107 millimeters, which is stock bore size. So I think we are brand new virgin engine, never opened. And this is definitely not the ideal way to do this. This is not the right tool, but for right now, just to get really quick and dirty. Doesn't look like it's ever opened to me. I just wanted to verify before I started buying parts. All right, let's go over what does rear gear train mean. So rear gear train is exactly like it sounds. So you can see all the gear train in the back of this thing. So running your CP3, your camshaft gear, it's all in the back of the engine where the flywheel would normally bolt. Obviously for a traditional truck application, this doesn't work. This is what you find in what's called a QSB application. It uses an SAE housing. So an SAE housing is like this guy that we see here on the floor. So we don't want that, so it's got to go away. The only thing that you find different in these two engines are this rear gear train, which is really just the crankshaft and the camshaft. So for me, that was never going to be a problem because I plan on replacing the crankshaft and the camshaft with a different one. So this engine is going to actually be a 6.4 when we're done. So we're going to be using the crank out of the 5.9. That'll change everything over to a front gear train. And then we'll be using the camshaft from Hamilton or Colt Cams. I'm not sure which one yet. All right, so why do a 6.4 over a 6.7? So seems counterintuitive, right? We're losing displacement. Why would I want to do that? So this engine, the intent of it is to have a lot of RPM. We want a RPM way higher than what a traditional diesel would do. So when you have a high degree of stroke, what you end up with is a high degree of piston speed. So when you're running 2,500, 2,800, maybe 3,000 RPM, that's not nearly as much of a problem. But I'm going to spin this thing up to 5,000, maybe even past 5,000 RPM. I'm going to be using a camshaft that will shift that RPM band way up. And if I have that extreme degree of stroke, it's going to put a lot more pressure on the lower end of the engine. So to get the engine speed I want, it's a lot safer if I do a very common thing, which is running the 5.9 crank in the 6.7 block. And really the only thing that you have to do to make that possible is shorten the deck height by about 80 thousandths. So I'll take that to my machine shop. They'll take care of shortening this thing down to 80 thousandths. That'll give us all the normal quench area that you would have in any other 6.7 application. But I get the beauty of having a shorter stroke, making it a little safer, a little slower on the piston speed when I'm running that higher RPM. All right, guys, pistons are out. I am absolutely covered in filth, but making progress. We're going to go outside and show you the block. It is now time to do some cleanup. All right, guys, here it is. The block is completely torn down. So now the fun part is we have to get this thing cleaned up. My preferred method is some Dawn dish soap in a foam cannon, let it sit, and then hit it with the pressure washer. So I'll kind of show you some time-lapse footage of how I like to do that. Overall, the engine's in phenomenal condition, as I kind of showed you guys before. Bores look amazing. So let's get this thing cleaned up. You guys may be wondering why I am giving this engine block a baptism in WD-40. Well, if you haven't done this kind of thing before, it is really hard to keep cast iron parts from flash rusting, really any steel parts from flash rusting. So the WD-40, getting a nice coating on all the surfaces that aren't painted, like all your interior surfaces, cylinder walls, cam journal, stuff like that, doing that makes sure that you don't get flash rust. WD-40 is amazing at preserving a block from getting flash rust for a really long time. So that's why we're doing this baptism of WD-40. All right, guys, well, I am now filthy. I tried to clean myself up best I can so you guys don't have to look at a completely filthy dude, but it is what it is. So we did get the engine tore down, so made some progress. So you can see our cylinders are now nice and lubed up, all in amazing condition like we saw when we took the head off. It's freaking awesome. So we got to take this to the machine shop to get decked. Like I was saying, guys, once you get the front and rear covers off of these things, they're no different than any other block, pickup truck block, industrial block, doesn't matter. They're all the same. So don't be afraid of picking up one of these industrial engines. You can get them for really cheap. They run at super low RPM, so they typically don't have much wear. You can see there's no color at all in the journals, so this thing's been really well maintained. It looks amazing. All right, so next video, I want to give you kind of a little sneak peek of what to expect for phase 3, and then we're going to be tearing apart the entire front end of this truck. So I need to get the current engine that's in this engine bay out. We're going to take apart the entire front. So we'll be taking out the radiator core support, radiator transcooler, intercooler, bumper. We'll take everything off. We'll pull this engine block out. We'll tear down, see what the bottom end of the 5.9 looks like. Hopefully the crank and everything are good. I imagine it is. If it's not, we're going to have to make some decisions on what we're going to be doing for phase 3. But next video, clean up of this engine bay, pulling out the 5.9, so I'll go everything top to bottom, try and make sure I explain as much as possible to everybody. In my mind, I just wanted to get it running for you guys, kind of show you what it takes. You're gonna have to wait. The worst one, but that's how you roll the dice in this game sometimes. I might try and sleeve it. We'll see what the future brings. You guys may be wondering why